Me and Alex, now that you guys have agreed to the financial planning relationship and we have gone over the disclosures, I'd like to highlight a couple of areas that I feel is important for us to discuss today from the financial plan. Those would be the retirement plans that Alex would like to review for his employees and also your estate plan. So we'll begin with Alex. Alex, I think it's phenomenal that you would like to incentivize your employees to save for retirement and that you understand it's important to try to maximize your own retirement savings as well. I understand you've narrowed it down between a SEP and a simple IRA. I have gone over the pros and the cons within the plan for you to review later, but I'd like to highlight a couple of reasons why I think the simple IRA is going to be most appropriate for you. The SEP is, yes, a little bit cheaper to adopt and maintain and also allows for flexible contributions. However, the simple IRA meets more of your needs. You mentioned to me that it's important that you incentivize the employees to save and that you care more about trying to fund the employees who are full-time for you as opposed to part-time. And I also understand you want some flexibility when you are contributing as the employer. The simple IRA does not require you to include employees who have not made at least $5,000 or more in the past 2 years and expect to make $5,000 or more in the current year. Because of this, you won't have to include most of your employees since you mentioned that most of them are actually college students who don't work for you for more than a couple of years. This will allow you to focus more of your time with the full-time employees. Also, with the simple IRA, it does allow for elective deferrals. The SEP does not allow for this, which means all contributions will come from you as the employer. As allowing for the employees to allow elective deferral, they're allowed to do $12,500 in a year with a $3,000 catch-up if they're over the age of 50. On top of this, a simple IRA does allow for a little bit of flexibility as the employer contribution. Yes, you do have to commit to either 2% or 3% annually. However, if you choose to do the 3% contribution amount, you are allowed to bring that down to 1% for 2 years out of a 5-year period. So if for any reason your business is unprofitable, you are allowed that ability. And again, remember, you won't have to be including as many employees as you would with the SEP, with the simple IRA, so you would be committing to having to contribute to less employees. Now that we've reviewed why the simple IRA would be most appropriate for Alex, I'd like to go into your estate plan. I think that the estate plan portion is going to be the most important topic that we discuss about today because you both have 3 young children who rely on you for income. There are 3 priorities that I feel we should address with an attorney as soon as possible. The first priority would be that all of the accounts and assets that you guys had provided to me didn't necessarily have your beneficiaries established correctly. Most of them only listed each other as the spouses, as the primary with no contingents, or an estate plan. Currently, with this setup, if you were to pass away tomorrow, all of your assets, or most of your assets, would most likely go to probate. If this were to happen, the assets will get tied up for a while, especially in a time when your kids are going to be in need of funds. And also, the probate court, it'll be up to them to decide who receives the money, how they receive the money, and when they receive the money. So it's not necessarily guaranteed that your kids will benefit at all from any of these assets or be used in the way that you would like to. On top of establishing your beneficiaries, I think it's very important that we look at the next priority, which would be to create a trust and a guardianship. Having your children as contingent beneficiaries is not sufficient. Even though you're telling the courts you'd still like the funds to go to your children as contingents, it still would most likely end up in probate. Again, that would tie up the funds at a time that the kids need the money the most. Establishing a living revocable trust and having it funded before you pass will allow the assets to transfer by law to your children and not go to probate, which means that the funds would be accessible much quicker than as if they were to go to probate. Along with establishing a trust, you are allowed to pick who the trustees will be in the event that you were to pass, and then the successor trustee to that trustee, which means you're the one who's able to pick who is going to maintain these funds for your kids. And on top of that, with the trustee, you can have them manage the funds for a longer period of time. So, in the event that you feel that the kids would not use the funds for educational purposes at the age of 18, which I know you guys care much about, then you can have the trustee manage these funds through their college years and until you think it would be sufficient to send the money to your kids. Along with creating the trust, we would probably want to look at creating a support provision, which means that you're telling the trustee they only need to generate enough income to support the children and to send them to school. The other thing that we should look at with the estate attorney is creating a guardianship. We want to do this while creating the trust because it's very important that the trustee and the guardianship also know each other so that they can work cohesively together if you decide that you do not want them to be the same person. The guardianship is going to be the person who is actually physically taking care of your children, deciding where they live and where they go to school. The reason we see different people in these positions is if you feel that there's somebody more suitable to handle finances as opposed to physical care. The third priority I think that we should look at is a business succession plan for Alex. Currently, I did not see any information provided for this succession plan. In the event that Alex were to pass away before Mia, we would lose sufficient amount of income, and if the business were to be sold, Mia wouldn't necessarily benefit from any of the proceeds. It's important for us to establish a business succession plan in the event of you retiring or passing away. What we will probably look at will be dependent on what you want to do with your business. I understand that your business is very important and you received it from your uncle. So deciding as to whether you want to keep it in the family or not is something we should consider before making any final decisions. And I think it's important for us to discuss this with the estate attorney on all options and avenues available. There are two things that you'll probably want to think about when discussing this with your attorney. That is whether you want to gift or sell the property or the business. The reason we typically see people gifting the business is if you are interested in keeping it within the family and want to give it to a younger family member who may not have the capital in order to purchase the business from you. The other option would be to have some type of a sale agreement. This is something you might consider if you don't care to keep the business within the family and you'd rather benefit from the proceeds within a retirement time. I would like you to think over these as much as possible. And once you've come down to a couple of ideas with your estate attorney, we can come back and weigh the pros and cons on what would most be appropriate for you and your guys' future. Now that we've gone over these two topics, I would like for you to both review the information that I've provided within the entire financial plan. If you have any questions, please give me a call, and I'd be happy to address them. In the next meeting, I have listed some additional items that I think would be very beneficial for us to discuss, and I would like you to review them and be prepared to maybe discuss those in the future. I look forward to seeing you both next time.